Well done. Thanks. So welcome, everyone. My name is Kate Nolan. I'm the program manager here at FRRR for the Helping Regional Communities Prepare for Drought initiative, which is the Community Impact Program and the Small Network Grants. Jess, if you'd like to share your screen and start the presentation. We have, I'll wait for her to start to put that over. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners on the lands of which we're all meeting today. I'm in Bendigo in central Victoria on Dja Dja Wurrung country, and I thank them for their ongoing care of this beautiful land, its waterways, plants and animals, and I pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. So we've got a full schedule today. So I'll just get right to it. I'd like to welcome those from the Small Network Grants Program. This might be their first webinar. Our quarterly webinar series is really a chance for all those in the Helping Regional Communities Prepare for Drought initiative to connect, to exchange ideas, to hear the wonderful projects that others are delivering, to keep us and ARLF informed, as well as for us to keep you informed. And so with that, our first guest is Christy. Is it? Yes. Christy Bremer is Executive Officer for Gascoyne Catchments Group in the Gascoyne region of WA. They are the community partner lead organisation for the region, and they've also received a community impact grant for their project Connection Across the Gascoyne. It aims to better prepare this geographically isolated communities in their region, both mentally and physically, to create social connection and strengthen relationships through shared learning opportunities. So this is a very unique region, and we welcome Christy to share her insights with us today.
Thanks, Kate. Okay, well, I don't need to tell you who I am because Kate's taking care of that, so that's one tick off the box. Thank you. So as Kate said, I'm the Executive Officer of the Gascoyne Catchments Group. So for context, the map on your screen to the left, that big pink area is the Gascoyne. So the Gascoyne region is just over 135,000 square kilometres in area. For context, Tasmania is 68,000 square kilometres. So we're nearly twice the size of Tasmania in terms of a region. And that's made up of 4 local government areas. GCG was established in 2009 as volunteer groups in what is known as a land conservation district dwindled.
Christy, it's Alicia here. Could I just cut you off because the sound quality is not fantastic, and I thought we better rectify that before you go on. So I think you might be just sitting too far from the.
Well, it could also be. We'll try, but it could also be my sketchy internet given where I live.
Yeah, no, that's heaps better. I think it's just you're a bit far away. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So the majority of the Gascoyne is under pastoral lease management. So that is around 10 million hectares of the region is under pastoral lease management. And those pastoral stations vary in size of the property from 55,000 hectares to 380,000 hectares, with some land managers responsible for more than one property. So you could have a land manager, for example, where I am, it's 1 million hectares that are under management by one entity. And I don't know how to get the slides to change. Thank you. So as I said, we're 4 local government areas with 4 major centres. So there's Carnarvon, Denham, Exmouth and Gascoyne Junction, and they're around 2 to 4 hours apart in terms of distance. Carnarvon is the largest population and the main service centre for the region. And Gascoyne Junction is the only inland town, and that has a town population of just 65. The main industries is pastoralism. Carnarvon has a huge horticultural precinct. The coastal towns also rely on fisheries, and then there's also tourism that makes up the region. If you could go again, thanks, Kate. We have got 2 World Heritage Areas on the coast. So Ningaloo World Heritage Area is Exmouth, Shark Bay World Heritage Area is Denham, with Carnarvon being central to that area. And the region's known for its various sea humpbacks, various species of turtle. The coastline is very, very unique and different in that it's quite rugged. So some sections don't have a beach per se. It's simply red dirt cliffs that fall off the edge straight to the ocean. Inland, we've got the Kennedy Ranges and also what's considered Australia's largest rock, Mount Augustus. We have multiple rivers within the region, all of which are very exciting when they actually have water, which is not particularly often, but it's very exciting for tourists and locals alike. We also have quite a large number of pastoral stations that are diversified for various regions and now offer station stays. So, and they're a draw card, even those that are inland versus those that are on the beautiful coastline. We can go again, Kate, please. The Gascoyne region is also home to Western Australia's longest river. So it's 865 kilometres long. It starts inland at Meekatharra and obviously ends at Carnarvon. Like all of the other major rivers in the Gascoyne, it's what's known as an upside down river. So the water for most of the year is under the surface and not actually flowing through the river. We have also just faced the longest period without the Gascoyne River flowing in a very long time. So the last flow was April 2023, and that was from water and rainfall up at the top of the catchment. So that water came from Meekatharra, and it flowed 2 weeks ago for the first time since April 2023. So Carnarvon Hawke guys were definitely starting to feel their bores all being put under water restrictions because it hadn't flowed in such a long period of time. Kate, thank you. So the region itself, with lots of different industries, obviously rely heavily on water, and the horticultural area, along with the whole Gascoyne, faced its hottest summer in a very large number of years. It was a very hot, very dry summer.
So you've had your time on this. Please choose a show. You've had your extra 5 minutes. Please choose a show. Could be Disney, could be iView.
Oh, I thought that was someone giving me a time warning. I'll keep going. Carnarvon is known for the sweeter bananas, so the smaller, sweeter bananas, mangoes, along with a whole array of other produce. We can move on. Thanks, Kate. Sorry, I've lost momentum now. So for a bit of context, in 2021, Carnarvon had a flood. So Carnarvon, you'll see from those photos, went under water again. Now that was from 200 to 400 mil fell across the Western Gascoyne over 3 to 5 days. So that was all from localised rain. And that was the amount, that was purely from the rainfall that fell in Carnarvon. The flood before that was the 2010-2011 flood, which lots of people probably knew about. After that flood, which was from the river, that flood happened, they actually have put in a massive number of levee banks in and around town that are actually yet to be tested. So how the rain falls and where it falls can be a huge issue for the area. Often isolating not only Carnarvon as a town, but the people who live out in the wider regions. So Exmouth has been known to be cut off too from the creeks and washes that are there before town. In 2022, January and February 2022, as well as January 23 and February 23, there were huge fires started by dry storms across the region, with hundreds of thousands of hectares of pastoral estate burnt. So it's often very, very difficult when we have events such as that, because obviously we have limited population when you're talking about the pastoral area, along with firefighting equipment. So they mobilised a water bomber in 2022, and that was once it hit the main road between Gascoyne Junction and Carnarvon, and they didn't want the fire to get into the Gascoyne River. They also brought the water bomber up from Perth in 2023 to Exmouth. one of the biggest issues with the water bomber coming to the area is that it can't land on any of our airstrips, and it has to go back to Geraldton to be refueled and refilled with the right mix of whatever it is that they use for that purpose. Thanks, Kate. So 2023 for the region was the driest on record for Carnarvon. So Carnarvon only received 54 mil of rain. Some areas, for example, Lions River Station, where I'm based, we did get slightly more at 90 mil, but unfortunately the timing and intensity of rainfall are critical factors when it comes to how the landscape recovers. So rainfall during those hotter months really does not provide much benefit or landscape recovery because it's simply too hot and it vanishes. The same as if the rain falls hard and fast, that runs off versus actually penetrating the landscape. So I've just put these images up from some recent field trips. So the one on the left and the one at the top, they were taken in March 2024. The last recorded rainfall in that area was 3 to 5 mils in July 2023. The ones on the right were taken in May 2024. And in the 8 weeks, there'd been between 3 and 25 mil received every few weeks, with the 25 mil event actually taking place over the course of a day. So it was one of those light, misty days where it's just a really light rainfall. So whilst quite often it can look very hot, red, dry, it really doesn't take a huge amount of rain falling at the right time and the right way for our landscape to recover. Thanks, Kate. So obviously we also have significant challenges in that the majority of the region is made up of dirt roads and often places can be extremely isolated. 2021 was also COVID snap lockdown year. So I had gone to Perth to put my children into boarding school and promptly turn around and came back. So my kids had to get a helicopter ride north, then fly out of Exmouth. So they spent 12 days travelling to get back to Perth for the start of boarding school because we were cut off for nearly 2 weeks into that year. And that also gives us an issue when we're talking about freight deliveries because when it rains, the roads are closed and often roads are cut by impassable rivers for significant periods of time as well. So you can sometimes go weeks without your mail/freight runs. So the needed freight to the majority of pastoral stations as well as their mail once a week. Thanks, Kate. So as Kate said, with our project, with bringing people together, it's often very difficult across our area to bring people together with towns being so far apart, neighbours being far apart, that we really need to pick our timing and the reason we get people together. So that's for that reason our project focused on things that were key to help people and give them a reason to get together. And we also picked some projects that would focus on bringing town and pastoral together for a common purpose, which has gone better than expected and has made long-term connections between various entities and people across the region so far. Thanks, Kate. And so I just wanted to talk about the last, so we called what we called a plant ID workshop, was scheduled in March before we'd had any rain, and there was an ongoing joke about identification of dead grasses and trees and how interesting that would be. We stuck with holding that date, and we were very lucky to have had some rainfall beforehand, but it gave a reason for people to come together, I guess, somewhere else and realise that they weren't alone in what they were seeing and how they were feeling. So we ended up having 12 people attend, and it was quite an interesting afternoon with people trying to guess what it was that was regenerating. Certainly some robust conversations over different species, because often the species in the Gascoyne look very, very similar and are very much the same until their flowers come out. So I've actually got to go back out to the site where we did it just to check with hopefully some flowers to see who was right and who was wrong over a couple of species. So it was definitely nice to have people together, because some people that had attended haven't seen any rainfall. So it's still nice for them to know that it'll only take a little, and be reminded that it'll only take a little bit of rain and they will see some green again. So, and that's it, I think, for me, Kate. I think that's my last slide. It is. You cut my pretty Q&A picture.
Yes. Thank you so much, Christy.
Thank you.
I've moved it. It's towards the end of the I think it's after Bronwyn that I put it, so that there's time for anyone to ask questions to you, Christy. Thank you so much. I will move along then to Bronwyn, who's the project officer for Mianko Creek and Tributaries Advisory Council. They were also funded in the Community Impact Program for a project in the Murray region of New South Wales, Chicks in the Sticks, 2 sessions. Bronwyn is on the tail end of the second session, and so we'll be sharing some insights from the region and how it all went.
Thanks, Kate. Now I'm still going to complete my overview because I had it as part of my discussion for today, if that's okay, Kate. But thanks for giving me that lovely introduction. I will tend to use my hands a lot. I tend to talk with them. I have trouble sitting on them. So I'm just forewarning everybody that you might just see my hands going everywhere. So welcome. Just to start off with, I actually really would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands we represent today out of respect. And I need to do that because during my presentation, I will be either showing you photos or talking about Indigenous cultural groups from Bangarang, Wamba Wamba, Barra, Wiradjuri, Yorta Yorta and Barkindji. So you'll either see photos or references made throughout my presentation. And just for clarification, all those people are actually still alive because I know that Indigenous nations do not like to have deceased members in public. So I just thought I'd clarify that. So thanks for this wonderful opportunity to converse on our delivery of our Chicks in the Sticks. So on behalf of the Mianko Creek and Tributaries Advisory Council, we would like to pay our utmost thank you to FRRR for the continued support they provide to our communities across our nation. So YACTAC itself, that's our lovely little acronym that we use, is a membership-based organisation, and we are located in the Southern Riverina of New South Wales. And our members are landholders or water users along the Mianko Creek system. So the Mianko Creek system virtually connects for those who, just to get perspective, the Murrumbidgee to the Murray, okay? So we have 250 kilometres from the top end to the bottom end and there's 600 kilometres of creek frontage. And it was so good to hear Christy because we've both got waterways within our footprint. So that's really a connection already and we haven't even thought about it. So, yeah, we're the peak body for water resource advocacy and natural resource management. So it was really exciting when something outside their core business was put forward through an FRRR grant, and that process was as a collective through the Murray Landcare Collective. And so there was a group of organisations in that collective, and they all put in one submission to FRRR and to gain the funding. So our funding was a fruition of that, and I was on board in November 2023 to deliver 2 events underneath that scope. So the initial scope was to provide 2 events that were going to absolutely highlight our rural and remote women. I'm going to have to go. I've just got a little one waking up. Sorry. Talk amongst yourselves just for a split minute.
The joys of working from home.
And it just shows the diversity of roles that we play in our day-to-day works. You know, Bron's at home with her grandson, who she was hoping would stay asleep, but he's obviously just woken up. So be with her for a moment. Oh, she's back already.
That's like Murphy's Law, everybody. Thanks, Bea, for that background to everybody else who might have jumped on board after I gave you the disclosure that I'm actually wearing my nan hat today. Okay, moving right along. So part of our scope was obviously to deliver 2 events aimed at women, rural women. And some of the key notions of that was to look at entrepreneurship, focusing on agricultural and environmental, mental health, suicide, and personal and community wellbeing. This event was to support drought preparedness, and we were aiming to host 80 to 100 participants. So our platform was for social connection, creating new networks, sharing knowledge, showcasing our achievements. It was to enhance the capabilities and leadership within our community. This event was going to emphasise engaging, empowering our women to make decisions on farms and within their communities, particularly during tough times such as drought. Providing a safe environment for challenging conversations and networking, that was probably very important to us. And we really needed to be able to foster professional development and agency to our women, because of their community and business leadership. So part of our key goals then out of that scope was to strengthen our social resilience, develop community connections, encourage communities to build leadership networks and support. We promoted transformative ways to build drought resilience. We also increased awareness and changing attitudes towards drought, expanding reach and activities of our community leaders, mentors. We improved the utilisation of community infrastructure, and we enhanced the capabilities of our leaders who attended and also championed our events. So for me, if I had to describe, rather than go through those few paragraphs, what I would say to people, what we were trying to achieve is that we're creating community connection through conversation. That was my summary that I was telling people when I was going out into my communities and talking to them about the delivery of chicks and the sticks. So with that scope in hand, we set sail to bring 2 events together. And thank you, Kate, for just preempting the slides, because that's not going to be me. I'm just going to talk. So thank you. So we did a budget split, because obviously everyone's familiar with budget. So we did a 60-40 budget split, thinking that was going to work for us. So we were to deliver it in one event in Jerilderie and one event in Millamine. So as you would be aware, we've got 2 communities 250 kilometres apart. So we're going to deliver on the same scope, but always in the back of our minds is that we're going to deliver 2 very different events. We didn't want to have apples and apples. We wanted to have apples and pears. So just to give you a quick brief, the first event was delivered in autumn, March, Sunday, luncheon, at that stage 2 guest speakers and a panel session with a local identity. Beautiful autumn weather. And the added bonus was that we were hoping to have bespoke trade stalls within our lovely hall, so then it gave an added encompass to our attendees. Millamine, July, middle of winter, afternoon tea, midweek. So that's what we're thinking in our thoughts processes. So to cover off on engaging our community leaders and ladies, we were thinking about what guest speakers would we have, thinking about our scope. So we're embarking on our Jerilderie experience. So with rural and regional women, we onboarded Kimberly Furness. She has a publication called Oak Magazine, and she also has a podcast called A Friend of Mine. And Kimberly's ethos is highlighting the connections and recognitions of women of all backgrounds, both in their businesses, their sporting and their entrepreneurship achievements. And then we onboarded a lovely local lady, Lou Bull, and she had a background in yoga, meditation and relaxation as a teacher, but she had a really strong influence in the natural resource management space, and she produced a perpetual calendar. So that was really exciting for us to think that's who we're going to have on board. So we worked with the Murrumbidgee Shire to host this first event in their civic centre. And it became apparent as we worked through the process to onboard this event that women, when they come to an event, especially a Sunday luncheon, what do they expect? They expect a glass of Prosecco on arrival. So due to so many factors and complications, it became too complex. Insurance, we would have to get a liquor license, we would have to get somewhere with an RSA, just on and on it went. So we actually made the conscious decision, stop, we're actually going to make this event alcohol-free. Now, a lot of people said to us, that's very brave of you. So I thought, gee, okay, at this point, I need to reach out and think, how do other organisations make a successful event being alcohol-free? So we reached out to an organisation called Sober in the Country. And by golly, by gosh, I actually got to meet the organisation's founder, Shana Wan. I had a great phone conversation with her. Now, I was thinking I was just having a phone conversation with her to say, how does your organisation support or give advice on how to host an event being alcohol-free? But wowzers, we did not take this. She said, I can come. So at this stage, we'd already set the agenda. We'd already set the time frame. We'd already allowed so much time for our chicks to break out and have a really lovely box lunch. So all of a sudden, I had to fit in the next level high guest speaker, which meant that we had to really tighten our time frame up. We had to give our attendees less time over lunch, or they had to grab their lunch and sit back. Anyway, as it turns out, the stars aligned for us and Shana was in the room with us. Well, that just added next level dynamics. So it was really important for us also with this event to have local content. So we were so pleased when Roz, a local Barkindji Wamba Wamba lady, Indigenous lady who lives on Bangarang country, was able to join us. But I'm just totally going to digress for a point, because this is another element. You'll find there's lots of elements as part of our journey to deliver Chicks and the Sticks, is that I was so humbled to have Roz come and sit at my kitchen table one day because I work from home. And we conversed over the strengths and weaknesses of delivering any event. She's very, in fact, knows a lot about events from her past experiences. And at the same time, we talked about some of the events that she might have hosted in her lifetime. Now, she hosted 3 weddings for one son to the same lady. But we talked about cultural influence, and that's why that had to happen. So they had an Indian wedding, an Indigenous wedding, and an Australian wedding for this lovely same couple. And we talked about symbols around cultural awareness and that type of thing. And we came up with this concept. I don't know, Kate, can you go back a couple of slides to our table decorations? Is that okay? Slide, go back. There. So I didn't really notice. The top one's in Geraldry, the bottom one's in Moorme. Is that we had a humble bunch of sticks. I don't know if anyone can see me or if people can see me, in a Fowler's jar. Okay? Now you might think this is just sticks in a Fowler's jar. But in actual fact, what we did is we made this as a centerpiece for our table decorations. And each time we hosted an event, and they ended up traveling to 3 events, we added the chicks' names to the sticks. So then it became Chicks in the Sticks. So it was an absolute play on words, but that's what we did. And I don't know whether everyone can see, and I don't know whether you can see from the clarity of the photos on those 2 tables, but these sticks also then travelled to a Indigenous women's yarning circle. And out of respect to those ladies that we had, once again on the banks of a creek system, and rather than adding their names, we added saltbush. So the saltbush is a lovely addition, which is dried with our arrangement. So that's that story. So just thinking about my conversation with my local panellists, that's how that came about. And it actually, a lot of people can't, I think it's such a simple concept has become such an iconic part of our delivery of Chicks on the Sticks. That was that component. So at the same time as talking to this lovely lady at my kitchen table, she goes, as part of me delivering events, I have actually collected 100 tennis cup tea and saucers. Now, I don't know whether anyone knows what a tennis cup and saucer set is, but this is what it looks like. The plate's a little bit bigger, and there's a little cup. Now, just keep that in the back of your mind, okay? She collected 100 of these. So anyway, we went on to deliver Chicks in the Sticks in Geraldry. It was absolutely astounding success. The ladies who attended gave us the most positive feedback, you know, and just a key element of that is that we're using the same survey for both events. 2 different deliveries, but the same survey. So with that surveys, it's apples for apples, just remember that. So we've delivered, done, dusted, euphorical high. We fitted everybody in and everyone just graciously left, and that's what it was. So then we journeyed on to our women's yarning circle, as I mentioned, and we thought that was a great event too, because that was only 2 weeks after Jerilderie, and we had 28 Indigenous women sitting on the banks of the Billabong Creek system, really engaged workshop style, but we left that up to them. We were just sitting in the background. We just brought them together. Then it was up to me to deliver Moolameen, which was only last Thursday, so it's still very fresh in our minds. So I've had to pull together a lot of information to get to you here on Wednesday. So the exciting thing is that I had to make a recognition that I was going to deliver something differently, but at the same time, I felt I was forcing something that wasn't supposed to be. So I just really wanted to highlight to everybody, when you go to embark on doing an event or a presentation or something, don't force it, because I've done a lesson learned. I thought, oh, this and this and this could work for this community, but you know what? It just wasn't working. So I didn't realise that for about 2 weeks. So I pulled right back. I made a trip. And for me to make a trip across to Moolameen, it's 2.5 hours one way. Spent a full day with them. And as it would be, as I said earlier, creating community conversations through connections through conversation, it was a conversation that gave me from somebody else, that gave me the people that were going to champion this event for us in Moolameen. We didn't live on their back doorstep, remember that. So everything we did from that moment I left that community, my first visit, we had to do either via the phone or email or on a Zoom like we're doing now. So I was absolutely so blessed to have that community champion that event for us. So we delivered last Thursday, but very different. It was a Thursday afternoon, high tea, one facilitator workshop session, and we engaged the services of a lady called Cynthia Mahoney, and she is out of Melbourne, and she has produced a book, and in her book she is absolutely looking at cultivating people's well-being for their communities and personally. So she was able to give us a 2 1-hour sessions. And because we had such a tight time frame in Jerilderie, remembering that experience, I really wanted people to have an intermission of 45 minutes. And in that 45 minutes, we actually had high tea. So that was a highlight. I'm running out of time, aren't I?
2 minutes. You've got 2 minutes.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So what I really need to highlight to you all is that 2 different communities. So just some of the quick words that I'm thinking that come to mind is that, yes, we delivered 78 ladies, chicks in Jerilderie, 42 in Moolameen, but I just wanted to quickly give you an overview of the 2 communities and how different they were. So when I think about Jerilderie, it was a passive event. We had a set agenda. We really didn't have any community input, and we had no volunteers to help us. It was just staff and team members. But for Moolameen, I would call it a progressive event, because we had a community over there who were championing their own event and giving us directive on how they wanted that event to look. And I think the reason for that too, and it gets back to why we received our funding, they have had more adversity thrown at those and then the Jerilderie community. Moolameen has been through not only drought, they have been through horrific flooding in 2022, and they also have a transgrid, which is a big electrical line going through their community. So I think that has brought them together, and they have a really strong little social hub through their art gallery over there who did our high tea, whereas I feel we went into the Jerilderie community and just said, this is it. This is what's going to be. Not that we didn't ever give them input, but we didn't have that connection that we have established. So we've given a professional trust with that community, and I think that's why it became a stronger event and a very different event. And the other thing I would like to highlight to you as well is I just want to really thank the FRRR. I have so much more I could talk about, was for the expertise pool that we had access to, because our social media skills were not very good. And here we are. This is the 2 lovely that we connected with through the expertise pool. I just can't thank you enough for that experience, because we only have, I'm contracted, our executive officer is contracted within YACTAC, and we have one staff member, and we're all multitasking, all doing different jobs within the organisation. And I would say social media was letting us down. So then we put in our expression of interest to do this expertise pool, and I would absolutely encourage any other organisation to do it. We don't have a lot of funds because we're membership based, so it had to be pro bono. But Tracy took time, gave us 30 minutes, which was absolutely fabulous. And we also received a really great slide presentation from Gemma, which we've added to our toolbox for our social media. So thank you very much. And I could talk more, but I also want to just give one other little point of call. Every lady was sent home with an afternoon tea biscuit with our logo on it, a herbal tea bag. And that was also part of our journey. And this is the Etch Sparkling Drink, which is the non-alcoholic drinks that came out of our first delivery, is because we wanted people to take time out of their day and reflect on their experiences of attending a Chicks and Sticks event. That's it. I'll stop now. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Bron. Yeah, I definitely could see how we could have you do it the whole session with what you have to share. I know we've got here in the agenda to do the Q&A. I'm wondering if we might move to Louise from ARLF to talk about the Drought Ready Network and to save the bulk of the time for Q&A at the end of the session.
Excellent, and thank you very much for the opportunity to be here, and thank you, Bron and Christy, very much for your case studies. How inspiring to listen to what's happening on the ground. So, excuse my voice. I'm croaky from a flu that I had a while ago. I just wanted to give you a very quick update on Drought Ready, because it actually captures exactly what Bron and Christy were talking about all this work and how we can bring it all together and share and learn from each other. So just most of you may be in Drought Ready already, and if you're not, I would love you to join. But it's a national online community connecting all those funded under future drought funds to share and learn from each other. So exactly what Bron was talking about, exactly what Christy was talking about, how do we get all of our communities across the nations sharing and talking to each other? Thank you. So it's a online interactive, sorry about my typing, an online interactive Facebook hub, and we're intending it to be a knowledge exchange, a knowledge bank and an exchange experience. And I'll highlight that because it's about exchanging the experiences that you're having rather than being a source of information. So this is a hub where you can ask questions, learn from others' experiences, share your projects and resources, and support each other in communities to help communities fast-track projects. The intention of this network is not to be driven by us, but to be driven by network members to make it as valuable as possible. Where we're up to, we've already got 600 members and we hit 610 today. But who's in the network? As I said, it's a closed network group, so it's by invitation. But our ARLF Drought Leadership Program participants are in there, including change makers, mentors, drought resilience leadership programs, our FRRR community impact programs, so small network grant participants, community extension grants, and networks to build drought resilience projects. So there's already a huge amount of information that's already of groups that have got such great experience in there. All of our drought hubs are in there as well as CSIRO and Drought Nuffield scholars. And again, the drought hubs are not there to actually put all of their technical information through. It's to be there to support for any questions that members actually need answers on. Thank you, Kate. So in terms of how you can contribute if you're already in the network, what we would love you to do is to help us make this as interactive as possible. So what we want you to do is that if you feel like you're stuck, feel free to ask a question. So ask others for their experiences. We would love you to share insights of something that you found helpful, even if it's only one thing. We want to create this network as being a really positive community. So we would love you to promote your community's strengths. We would love you to encourage participation. We have lots of members that are actually putting up posts, but nobody's liking them. And I find that a bit sad. I just want to make that a little bit of a hooray for people if you could just like them, because they're taking the effort to and the courage to actually put posts up. And even if I put them up, I'd love you to like them as well. It'd make me feel better. But the more you can do, because we really want to support our other community leaders. We would love you to introduce your projects, even if it's a 3-paragraph, short paragraph and a photo. That's all it needs. Because imagine if we've already got 600 members who do that. What a wealth of pool of knowledge that we'd already have. You could make it fun, which would be fun. Any challenges? Share any challenges you've overcome and what you do differently. Because imagine someone sitting in a community that is struggling with something, and you go, "Oh, wouldn't it be great if you could just reach out and tap into somebody that could help you just tap over that challenge." Get inspired. And we've already had this, quite a few other communities have looked for projects for inspiration. And again, I come from a little country town, and they've got 4 volunteers, and they're always looking for ways that they can implement new ideas into their communities. So connect. You can also reach out and connect with others, but most importantly, we would love some feedback on what would be most valuable for you and for the people that you're working with. So there's a feedback button in the network as well. So, but it's about to get bigger. It's not going to just stay as a Facebook online community. We're actually putting quite a few other opportunities through Drought Ready. We're about to kick off a leadership and learning series, and I'll talk to you about that in a minute. We're also, we've just run some pilots for our new concept of leadership circles, and we'll be delivering some cultivating networks in regions, and I'll talk about that in a short second as well, but also member-driven content as well. So again, if you've got, if you're courageous and you can do a 1 or 2 minute Facebook Live, that would be fantastic, or of your posts that will make this as dynamic as possible. So just kicking off our leadership and learning series, I'm super, super excited. Next Friday, we will be having Lee Mether presenting for an hour and a half on how to have difficult conversations and communicate under pressure. I just want to let you know about the caliber of Lee. She was actually on the morning shows on Channel 7 this morning talking about how to have respectful conversations online. So she's a fantastic speaker, and we would love all of you to come along. The link is actually in Drought Ready if you're keen. In the following month, and some of you may recognise this wonderful face, young Ali Mudford will be actually presenting a community workshop on engaging your community in change. And so that will be an interactive session rather than a webinar. So again, it's an opportunity to look at case studies and see what works and what doesn't, with some learnings on top. So that one's in August. And the leadership circles that I mentioned, this was based on the concept of connecting with peers outside your region. And so we've just done a pilot of small groups of 10. No one is from the same region, so it's an opportunity for people to come together in a confidential space to work through leadership challenges in a trusted environment, be a sounding board, gain clarification, and a large part of it was people who had great ideas and things, but they just needed clarification as to what it is that they were wanting to achieve, and also deep listening and supporting others as well. And I think this is a really cool concept. Again, for someone who's sitting in a region, it's always great to have someone who can help them outside. And then lastly, as I said, this is a new project, and we're actually launching it tonight in pilot form as well, is cultivating networks to shape our regions. So we can't deliver in all 35, but we'll be delivering in 10, but it's about how do we do networking differently. And there's a really cool concept called impact networking, where you're coming together to actually work on solutions for your communities and shape your future in those regions. So, but the other exciting part is that it's actually going to connect all of those community leaders in regions so that we can expand the network and base that we work on. So that's about where we're up to with Drought Ready. Super excited, but would be great if those in your network who haven't joined Drought Ready, we'd love to encourage you to get them involved as well. So thanks, Kate.
Thank you, Louise. I can't wait to see where this network goes, honestly, in the future. It's very exciting.
Thank you.
So I will just give a quick FRRR update and then open the floor up to any questions for Christy, Bron, or Louise. Thank you all for coming, and again, welcome to the grant recipients for Small Network Grants Round 1. Round 2 will be announced very shortly. I just want to give a kind reminder to please remember to use the acknowledgement guidelines when you're referencing support for your project. We've got downloadable logos and other templates that you can easily use. And please use the social media handles in social media. For those in the Community Impact Program who have completed their progress and final reports for your projects, thank you very much. We will be following up with the few that haven't submitted yet. If you have any questions, please reach out to us. The next survey check-in will be sent out in September and will be due early October. That will come via email to the Community Impact Program grantees, so just look out for that. We would like to introduce to you a couple of new staff members. Jess, who has been the one that's been running the show today, and Kelly. Kelly will be the one sending out this webinar recording to you in the next week or so, along with all the other documents. And Jess is tasked with just cleaning up some of the old documentation from the Community Impact Program. So if she has any questions, she will be reaching out to you. If the next thing, if you have any ideas for webinar topics in the future, please reach out to us. We really hope that these sessions are for your benefit. Like I said previously, to connect and to learn. If you'd like to showcase your project, please get in touch with us. And keep us updated. We'd love to hear about your projects, how things are going, any news that you have. On the next slide, there's the contact details of Alicia and Fiona, the community engagement coordinators. If you have any other feedback for them about the program, about how things are going, and any assistance you need, they're there for you to reach out to. And just before we go to questions, Gemma, did you have anything that you would like to add from ARLF?
Yeah, hi, thanks, Kate. Hi, everyone. Just in case there are some new faces, I think there are some new faces on here and they don't actually know who I am. I'm Gemma Rostron from the Australian Rural Leadership Foundation, and we're a separate component of the initiative, and we're focusing on building capacities by way of leadership development in your region. So hi to all the new faces that we haven't already met. And my beautiful colleague Louise just provided the details about Drought Ready. So jump in that. I'm super, super excited about all the webinars coming up and the opportunities through that network. So just to give you a really quick update, we have now secured the 35 regions leadership option activities. So everyone out of the initiative have now locked in a leadership activity. Yay. And that's a massive, massive achievement. And we're just securing dates. So as you can imagine, we've got the same as you, we've got the June 2025 cutoff to deliver the workshops in your region. So we are really doing a lot of reshuffles and working out how on earth do we fit 144 change makers into your regions. So bear with us. We are very much got this under control and have, and yes, definitely securing the dates for each region. So just to let you know, we've already rolled out close to 40 change maker workshops, and these workshops have just been so well received. I'm sure a couple of you already on the online have been into these workshops and can verify my excitement about how well received they are in each region. So we have a little promo video about some of the learnings from the Changemaker, and Kate is going to add that link to the video in the recording when she follows up with everyone after this webinar. We have another something like 144 change makers to deliver, so wish us luck. If you are a new face or a new staff member to a lead organisation or a project partner and you'd love to reach out, I'll put my email into the chat just so if I haven't talked or discussed anything with you yet about upcoming workshops in your region, please reach out. And I'll keep it really short. Sorry, Kate. Thank you.
No, thanks, Gemma. So there are 8 minutes left. Do we have any questions for Christy, Bron, Louise, or Gemma, or us, actually?
We do, Kate. We had a question from Bronwyn during Bron's chat. And Bronwyn has asked, so I've just got to go back up to the question now, about what were specific strategies used to create transformative ways to build community resilience? Sorry, that was Kathy Dawson asked that question.
Okay. I actually think that just from experiencing those two communities, that one community had created its own resilience because of adversity. I know we're using the word drought, but they've not only experienced drought, but they experienced flooding as well. So just looking at our surveys, one of our survey questions was postcodes and local government areas. So the community that had created its own resilience and had connected to the high end, their attendees only had 2 postcodes and 1 local government area, whereas the other community for the other event had 8 postcodes and represented 6 local government areas. So I don't know that that's part of our footprint or part of a community creating its own resilience package because they've had to work together because of an event such as flooding. But it would be really interesting to possibly either connect it or work with that community prior to that flooding event to see if it reflected the attendees at an event. So in terms of looking at the strengths and weaknesses and creating resilience in terms of delivery of a project, we really wanted to, key element was looking at who was in the room to either facilitate those events and could bring to the table that element from their experience and their portfolio. I hope this makes sense.
Thanks, Bron. I'm assuming it makes sense, as there's no follow-up.
If I don't mind, I actually have a question for all the other delegates. Can I go ahead and do that,
Yeah,
Kate?
please do.
One question we had, because we had a really strong, on Monday morning, we had a really strong session where we actually did a huge big debrief. And that was one to consider a highlight for me too, was to debrief after getting so vested in delivery of a project. So part of that debrief and part of looking at our responses from our survey questions, as I said, apples from apples, was do we actually, as facilitators and organisers, do we actually have a social obligation to go back to those communities at some point and re-engage with them and reconnect? That's my question.
And we open that to the floor to
Yes.
everyone in the room.
Can you hear me?
Is that you, Bernadette? Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to, thanks for asking that question, Bron, because, sorry, is my staff team noisy in the background? Cool. I was actually going to ask you what follow-up you had from those events or planned follow-up, because I find, and I suppose it's more particular in the regional and remote areas, is that one-off events are fantastic and highly emotional and create a great sense of connection. And then unless there is a long-term sort of plan of connection, it does dwindle. And they are always looking for some direction, but unless you've created that direction at the events, you have to supplement that. So that the planning of an event, I tend to do, well, in Gladstone anyway, from small church ones to larger local government areas, is to have the long-term event. And if that should change because the community let it to change, so be it. But there is, so to answer your question, do we have a social obligation? In my heart, I'll say yes. I'm not sure in theory if that's required in your job description, but I think it's something we need to consider.
Yep. And for some context for you too, Bron, Bernadette is actually from the Fitzroy Capricornia region in Queensland, so she's quite familiar with isolated communities. Brett, did you want to, we'll pass over to you, mate. Welcome aboard.
Thanks. Love having a crack at these types of open-ended questions. And thanks for providing that context too, Fee. I feel like I should provide the context that I'm in Central Victoria, so not isolated. I don't see ourselves as being too isolated. Where can be in Melbourne under 2 hours. So very different to some of the localities that have been presented today. Look, in answer to that question, I think that it sounds harsh, and it was not nice to hear Bernadette answer from the heart. I actually don't think we have a social obligation. I think that part of our work should be a call to action, and part of the work that we do at LEAD, not to promote, just for context, part of the work we do at LEAD is to allow people to experience community building. And so I think that when you look at the flavour of a lot of grants at the moment, it is for short-term, maximising participation over a short period, like the Changemaker workshops. There's a bit of promotion, Jem, no worries. That's what people are looking to fund, rather than what we have traditionally done, which is sort of 20 to 25 participants over the course of the year. So I think rather than a social obligation, it's worth trying to put it into the planning that people experience community building, and you have a call to action as part of your project to encourage them to pick up the baton and run with it. I've used this analogy today on a couple of other things, but the important thing is around the Olympics is the flame, and it doesn't matter who's holding the torch or what that torch looks like. The important thing is that the flame keeps burning. And so if, as part of what we deliver, we can have out of the group of people who attend, some champions to carry the flame, then we're really growing community capacity, because now we have some self-feeding growth happening.
Beautiful. Thanks, Brett.
Well, we're just at 2 o'clock. Unless anyone had any last. Oh, Robert, yep.
I don't want to, it's not about teaching people to suck eggs. We had a session yesterday morning, Dunalley, and we made sure, well, we didn't make sure, but he did choose to, our local member for Lions, so federal member, chose to come along to the session. Again, not expecting to teach anybody to suck eggs, but if you've got sessions going, it's well worth having your local poly, a special federal poly there, because they're the ones who end up approving the budget for these sorts of things in the long run. So to get them more engaged in exactly what we're up to is good politics for us too. And he really enjoyed it. He really, even though he's a federal poly, a past small business owner and a journo, he walked away with some really positive stuff out of it. So good for everybody.
Yeah, definitely. I think it is a good chance for them to actually be a part of, real community.
And sorry, I was just going to let Alicia know that yes, we will share the socials. It's Steve from Tasmania. I'm just on my to-do list.
You're getting in first before I said that.
Well, thanks, everyone. Thank you to the presenters. Thank you, Christy, for that lovely, cute dog that was in that photo. Thank you, Bron and Louise, for your sessions today. If there's any further questions, please send them through and we'll get them to the right person. Otherwise, we'll be sending this to you in an email in the next week or so. Thank you, everyone. Take care.
Thanks so much, everyone. Thanks for posing the question too, Bron.
Thanks, everyone.